Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 151, UFO. I'm especially loving alien stuff right now. Hi. So this happened over 25 years ago when I was 15. I had walked to the convenience store for a drink and some snacks with my cousins. After that, we had sat on a bench by one of the local banks that had a bench in front of it. We were all chatting and being teenagers, and I had noticed across the road these weird lights in the sky. The lights were in a row of 3 that I hadn't seen before in the distance behind the apartment buildings across the tracks. I remember saying to them both, "Look at those weird lights. They weren't there before and they aren't moving." They looked and said, "Oh yeah, hey, it's probably a plane or something." I'm like, "Well, it isn't making any noise and it isn't moving." But it was like they didn't really care, so we just continued to visit at the bench. I remember asking what time it was, as I had a curfew at 10 p.m. It was 9:30, they said, so like that I said I needed to get home before my curfew and walked back home. I lived with my older sister and 2 older brothers and her young son. I remember getting home and telling my sister that I wanted to wear my plaid flared pants for school the next day, but our brother's girlfriend hadn't returned them and she kept forgetting to bring them back when she would come visit my older brother. So I was going to walk over to her place and get them, and that our brother's girlfriend was spending the night so I wouldn't walk back alone. My brother's girlfriend at the time had lived about a 10-minute walk across the town from where I lived. I got to her place around just before 10 p.m. Again, being teenagers, we visited while she did some homework and finally gave me back my plaid flare pants. I say to her it's getting really late and now I can't wash these for school tonight and that we need to go. She says okay, and as we're leaving, I remember looking at the clock on the wall and it said 1 a.m. I remember thinking it's a 10-minute walk home. We're walking and between the houses I can see the same 3 lights in a row. I didn't want to scare her, so we just kept talking and walking. Meanwhile, I'm keeping my eye on these now moving lights. Now about halfway between our homes in a residential area, there is a main road that is normally busy as it meets the highway out of town. Not a car in sight driving. We're getting closer to the local mosque, and downhill there is a local high school on the far left and the elementary school on the far right. Between them, the elementary school's field. Past the high school, across the road from it, lived a man with his older sons, one of which drove a black Ford Bronco. I can see him fly out of his driveway and past the schools, heading towards the local fast food diner where 2 of his friends get into their vehicles and come driving back in our direction and stop at the pedestrian crossing in the middle of the road, parked like in a fan shape, and get out of their vehicles and watch these lights, which are now over the high school. Oh, so they're seeing them too now. Again, no sound, just really large 3 lights. At this point, I say to my brother's girlfriend, "Do you see that?" I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to scare you. And she says she did see them and didn't want to scare me. I say we should run. The lights are moving faster now and are getting very close. We walked right by the 3 guys on the opposite side of the crossing. We start to run. It's as though I'm running in slow motion and I cannot keep up. She's running so fast and is about 30 feet or more away. I yell for her by her name and she turns and runs back and grabs me by the arm and is practically dragging me, still running. We're running uphill and all I can think about is how tired I am, how heavy my legs feel, and it's really bright out. I wouldn't look up. We crossed the railroad tracks finally and ran under a gas station canopy. We were coughing and trying to catch our breath. I remember saying, "Let's go by the payphone," as it's in the middle of the canopy, and we'll wait a minute before running home to my place, which is across the road and less than a block from where we were. She said, "Okay," looking at me all scared and confused as to what just happened. Without waiting much longer, I say, "Okay, let's run." I didn't feel that heaviness in my legs nor the brightness in my eyes. Soon enough, we were at my place. We got in the front door, and in the living room, my brother and my cousin were watching TV. We started to tell them just what happened to us. And I remember my brother being concerned and asking questions, kind of nervous. My cousin just laughed and said that we were lying and it wasn't true. I got really angry and said, "Well, tomorrow when you guys are at work, ask your boss's brother. He was one of the guys there. I saw him." Then I stopped and looked at the clock. It was 2:30 a.m. How did we lose time like that? It's a 10-minute walk. Why couldn't I run? Why was it so bright? I still can't figure it out. Fast forward a few months, I asked the 3 guys separately in passing if they remember seeing the lights in the sky over the high school. They each denied it and looked terrified. How? UFO girl in Canada. Oh, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this sounds like an abduction to me. If you saw these lights and were they coming for you because you saw them once and then you went inside and then you left again and they came for you again? You saw these lights. You weren't the only person that saw these lights. And then they were basically chasing you and it was so bright. I feel like the fact that you couldn't run and the fact that you lost time, that all says to me abduction. I don't know why the other people are saying they don't remember it. Maybe they just don't want to remember it or they don't want to speak about it because it's too scary. My question is the girlfriend, the one that you were with, does she remember it? I'm going abduction. What do you guys think?